Our next speaker is Paula Barnard, who's the head of the Sanlam Foundation, talking to us about the work that Sanlam's doing in education.
Thank you for having me and the opportunity to share with you a little bit of our thoughts around why it is actually important for businesses, sorry, I'm going the wrong way, to be part of this investment in education. We take a slightly different view, but there is a very definite business case, and there's a very definite way for us to position ourselves within this space and to bring doing good closer to who we are and what we do as businesses. So if you start at the beginning, Sanlam started almost 100 years ago as a social enterprise to uplift the poorer people in the country and to protect wealth. If we had to translate that into today, the question is, how do we really do that? And what is the best place for an investment house and a protector of wealth and a wealth creator to do that? And the answer is very simple. It really comes down to investing in the core. And I think part of what I need to do today, and I'm going to skip over some of this, is really to make the business case around why investing in education is important. Because if we don't invest, the cost of not investing is much higher. So the cost of doing nothing will for a business like Sanlam, will catch up with us. And I think Vaja will confer, and Wendy will also confer. So no country can really afford to leave too many of its children behind. These are our future consumers as a business. These are the people that we need to learn to teach how to save, to manage scarce resources. There's a social narrative about saving the planet. Money, there's a big social narrative about how to create wealth and the inequality in the country. And how do we engage in those conversations if our children cannot read with comprehension? And the cost of getting them to engage in the conversation at a later stage is so much higher than doing it earlier. And I think that is what Coronation found when they did the deep dive in the analysis. So the question always with corporates is that we tend to have this rescue mentality. And I think, well, we'll solve the country's problems. Is it really business to the rescue? And my answer is going to be no. We have been for a long time dealing with fragmented efforts, and we're overfunding the same areas with very little to show for that. And I do think the collective call to action today is that we figure out where the best place for every corporate and everybody to put their efforts, their knowledge, their resources is in the spectrum of systemic impact and change that we want to create. Sanlam prides itself on being wealthsmiths, which also meant we had to look at the holistic view of what needed to happen in education and take a view on how we could invest in that space. For us, the key outcome was that good numeracy is the best protection against unemployment, low wages, poor health. How to do that, though, is quite a challenge. And I think Varda put it out beautifully. There are a number of factors that impact the maths positivity or the good numeracy levels that you see. For us, ensuring that there was a healthy, safe school, especially, and we fund in our Blue Ladder Schools project, we fund quintile 1 to 3 schools only, a public-private partnership where we went to the department and we said which schools really need help. Slightly different than telling the department which schools we will be funding, but really asking the question around who needs help in this space. We then, again, you'll hear this a lot, good school leadership development, not only of the principal, but the SMT as well, and to an extent, the school governing bodies as well need to understand what their roles and their accountabilities is. Couple that with healthy food. There are many of our children that go to bed hungry, and it's a fact that if you're hungry, you can't learn and you can't count. And that these schools then have enough support in terms of resources. So we've got a whole component that focuses on mobilizing employee volunteerism towards those schools that need support. We hoped, when we embarked on this in 2016, that would give us big jumps in maths. We also were quite intelligent about it, went about it in a phased approach, took one part and then another part, and we quickly realized that this is actually an ecosystem. Most of these are dependent on each other, and you can't put one before the other. So what happened is in the middle of, towards 2017, we actually put maths teacher development, learner development in numeracy forward to the forefront before actually finalizing some of the other components. And I think it speaks to the agility and the measurement of impact and making good investment decisions when you see that a project is not delivering the intended outcomes that you're looking for. How do I get that off? Thank you. So the Blue Ladder Schools is a holistic program, but I do think we need to be intelligent enough that when the department, who's a key partner to our project, says that actually the one component on this board that we are focusing on as a department is more important for the next 2 or 3 years than the other, that we move with our partner. And I think that's part of a good relationship, a healthy relationship, to ask the question about, is this where we want to go? And then see the fruits of that. So this is the nice corporate slide. The Blue Ladder Schools is in its 4th year of an intended 5-year partnership. What have we done? We have 75 Blue Ladder Schools currently across the country enrolled. Our teacher development programs and our learner intervention programs have managed to capacitate 735 teachers, which is quite a lot. I will say that the biggest risk to our project is every single one of those teachers is at risk of leaving the system, either being weeded out, which we've spent money on, or cannot cope with the environment which they are in and leave the system for corporates or other ventures. We managed to lift the maths across the country, and this is an average, in primary schools by teacher-specific focused teacher interventions by 11% in primary schools and high schools by 10%. What we have found is that is more or less the cap. So the question for us in the Blue Ladder School is, how do we get that higher? Because as Varda showed, that's not even touching the inequality gap yet. We need to do more. The question you will ask is, should business be doing more, as this is not, everybody comes to business for funding. My answer in that space is going to be absolutely yes. All corporates really need to do more. We need to invest deeper. We need to invest in the right places. We also need to rock back on our heels a bit and decide who does what. Collaborate in a more positive and constructive way. I also think we need to let the department lead the education agenda. It is theirs to lead. Am I right, Wada? I'm saying this at risk of certain, but if we're being vulnerable and if we're being truthful and really interested in finding a solution, then that is the job of the Western Cape Education Department, is to lead the education agenda. And for us as business to say, how can we support that agenda? How can we help you shape it? How can we help you execute it? How can we scale it? How can we innovate with what we know in business? Sanlam has probably 1,800 plus small businesses and practices, a distribution channel through which we sell. We know how to scale. Similarly, in F&B, RMB, any bank with a branch network of over 100 branches knows how to scale and roll out large change projects. My plea is that although Sanlam has done incredible work, and they really have moved the needle, it is not enough. And we can only move the needle together. We really can. And we need to find spaces like the coalition where we can rock back on our heels, put the problem on the table, and innovate to find that solution. It is within us as a collective to find the answers and to really solve this issue, which is at the moment heading for a huge systemic failure. Thank you. That's my moment on the platform.